Get out of the pool. Hand where we can see them. Now, you hear something like that, and you'd expect you'd done something wrong. Maybe robbed a bank, maybe crashed a car, but me, I was just floating in my own backyard pool, half asleep, sun on my face, feeling like I'd finally made it. Next thing I know, 3 police officers are shouting at me, weapons drawn, and my wife Linda's screaming from the patio. All before breakfast. Welcome to retirement, right? Name's Kyle Brooks. 65, ex-factory supervisor. Thought I'd finally found a little slice of peace at Willow Creek Estates. Linda and I worked for decades, pinched pennies, dreamed about the right house, and when we rolled up in that old moving truck, let me tell you I was ready to live. White picket fences, kids on bikes, folks waving from porches, looked like a postcard. If only someone had told me the devil herself ran the homeowners association. And that devil, well, she wore pearls, not horns, but Piper Cox could make you wish for the latter. From the moment we moved in, she had her beady little eyes locked on us, always clutching that clipboard like it was the Constitution. First day, I'm out pruning roses. She struts over, heels snapping like gunshots on concrete. And before she even says hello, she's eyeballing the hydrangeas, telling me the HOA expects uniformity. I told her I'd keep the roses from starting a union. She didn't crack a smile, not even a twitch. Next thing I know, she slipped a 5-page letter under our door. Every HOA rule highlighted in neon, little handwritten notes like trim tree to 6 feet max, and pool lights must not exceed 300 lumens. Linda tried to laugh it off. She's just doing her job, honey. Sure, I've seen that kind of power trip before. Give someone a badge or a clipboard, and they'll police the clouds if you let them. At first, we tried to be neighborly. Waved every morning. Invited the Parkers across the street for barbecue. Chatted with the Millers when their kids lobbed soccer balls into our yard. But Piper? She'd rather stare you down than say good morning. She'd roll by, lower her car window, and grumble about my red patio umbrella disrupting the color scheme. I said it makes the place feel alive. She said it wasn't that kind of neighborhood. What kind is it, then? The kind where joy's against the rules? Before long, her little comments turned into a campaign. Notes about trash cans, watering schedules, sound pollution from my ancient mower. And always, she'd mention the HOA. I asked Linda if HOA stood for her own authority. She laughed, but not for long. See, the thing about folks like Piper is they thrive on control. Rumor was she'd run the board since the first brick was laid. People tiptoed around her, afraid she'd report them for having the wrong doormat. We were just 2 new faces who didn't play along. One afternoon, I'm skimming leaves out of the pool, and here she comes again, clipboard phone scowl. You need approval for pool renovations, she snaps. Didn't renovate a thing. I say just cleaned it. She stares at the water like I put in a hot tub. Well, the water color's changed. That's called chlorine, Piper. She storms off, and the next morning, boom, potential HOA violation taped to my door. I tried to ignore her, really I did. We hosted a barbecue, burgers sizzling, music playing low, laughter all around. Halfway through, Piper marches over, furious. This gathering wasn't authorized. No guest parking permits. I said, Piper, it's a cookout, not a protest. That's when I saw it, the look in her eyes. She didn't just love the rules, she loved the power, the control. But the day she called the police, that's when things got dangerous. I caught her watching us from her upstairs window, always lurking, always whispering to whoever would listen. When mail started arriving late, she sauntered over and muttered, maybe the HOA should handle community mail. I laughed, said, you want to run the post office now? She stalked off, muttering about outsiders not understanding. That word stuck in my mind, outsiders. It wasn't about rules. It was about who belonged. That's why I put up cameras. Gut told me she'd go further. I woke up one Sunday, slid into the pool, feeling the stress melt off. The light was perfect. Linda was reading on the patio, everything calm, until sirens shattered the silence. 3 police cruisers skidded up to our gate. Officers stormed in, weapons drawn. Get out of the pool. Hands up, Linda shrieked. I froze, water dripping down my face. I looked up, and there she was. Piper Cox, standing at her driveway, phone in hand, smiling like she'd won a prize. She told the police I was an armed trespasser on my own property. The lead cop, Officer Daniels, lowered his gun, asked to see my ID and the deed. Piper ranted and raved, accused me of jumping the fence, claimed the house wasn't even mine. I showed the paperwork, showed the security footage, showed the mailbox with my name. Daniels apologized. Piper lost it. You just going to let him go? He's dangerous. People like him. Daniels cut her off, warned her about false reports. For once, Piper had nothing left to say. But that didn't stop her. Not even close. She left sticky notes about pool inspections and sent phony emails about violations. Turns out, when I checked with the real HOA office, Piper had been voted off the board 2 years ago. Not even officially in charge. She was just a wannabe queen in a paper crown. Thing is, people who lose power often get desperate. She started taking pictures of my fence, wandering the sidewalk with a measuring tape, even tried to get other neighbors riled up. Tom Parker came over shaking his head. She told me my bird bath was a visual obstruction. Careful, Kyle. She's driven people out before. Mixed couple, he said, complaints, noise violations, enough that they packed up and left. That sat heavy in my chest. Then it escalated. Late-night flashlight walks along the fence. Fresh warning notes every morning. Linda was a wreck. She just wanted peace, wanted to believe Piper would move on. But I knew better. Installed more cameras, set up motion alerts. One night, the footage showed Piper lingering at our fence for 3 minutes. Next day, I handed the footage to Officer Mills. Not trespassing yet, he said, but keep your cameras rolling. It all boiled over the next Sunday. We had our daughter and grandkids over. Pancakes, laughter, sunlight on the pool. For a moment, it felt normal. Then Piper's voice sliced through everything. You people never learn. She was at the fence, this time with a gun. Sun glinting off steel, her face red, hands shaking. I stepped between her and my family. Put it down, Piper. She screamed about rules, claimed I was fraudulent, called 911. Again, this time claiming there was an armed intruder. Then in front of my entire family, Piper climbed the fence, actually climbed it, gun in hand, heels snapping. Linda hustled the kids inside. I kept my hands up, spoke calmly. Cameras are rolling, Piper. Everything you're doing is being recorded. She faltered, glanced at the patio cam, but raised the gun higher. Sirens wailed again. Same officers stormed in. This time, Daniels didn't buy her act. Ma'am, lower your weapon now. Piper's hand shook, her face twisted. The gun went off, bullet hitting the lawn just in front of me. Reyes tackled her, guns skittering across the grass, Piper screaming as they cuffed her. I am the HOA? He stole it from me. For the first time, the whole neighborhood saw the monster behind a mask. That night, Linda held me tight. She could have killed you. I stared at the hole in the lawn, thinking about how close we'd come to disaster. Police took our statements. Turned out, Piper's gun wasn't even registered. The DEA filed charges, aggravated assault, false reports, hate crime enhancements. And the headlines went wild. HOA president pulls gun on neighbor. You'd think that'd be the end. But Piper kept pushing, even tried to press charges against me for threatening her with surveillance equipment. The DA laughed it out of court. At the hearing, Piper sat in cuffs, lawyer arguing she was mentally distressed, but the footage didn't lie. Judge gave her 6 months of community service, 3 years probation, mandatory therapy. Afterward, the neighborhood changed. Folks smiled again. The new HOA president brought muffins instead of warnings, and people actually started looking out for each other. Piper sent one last letter, smelled of cheap perfume. I only wanted to protect the community. Hope we can talk. I turned it over to the police. Then came the note taped to the mailbox. Your cameras can't see everything. Fear flickered, but I didn't back down. Neighbors rallied, started a watch group. For the first time, Willow Creek felt like a real community. Eventually, Piper got picked up again, caught near the neighborhood after midnight with another stolen firearm, stalking charges added. In court, she looked small and lost. 18 months in jail, 5 years probation, psychiatric treatment. Her husband, Greg, apologized, said she hadn't always been like this. I believed him. Life went on. The pool became just a pool again. The roses bloomed. Kids played. The new HOA president was all about book clubs, not bylaws. One afternoon, a box arrived. No name, just a note. Thank you for telling the truth. I'm sorry. PC. I tucked it away, not as a trophy, but a reminder. Winter settled in, quiet and calm. Linda and I walked the block, past Piper's old house. Now, pale blue, sunflowers out front, welcome friend on the door. The neighborhood healed, a little at a time. I realize sometimes it takes a storm to remind people what matters. Respect, kindness, standing up to bullies, not just for yourself, but for everyone. One last letter from Piper, this time from jail, said, "You forced me to see myself. I'm sorry. Maybe that's as close as peace gets. Maybe some folks can change, and maybe some won't. But what matters is this. Silence lets people like her win." So if you've ever dealt with a Piper in your life, someone who tried to turn rules into weapons, drop your story in the comments. Let's talk about what justice, community, and real respect look like. And hey, don't forget to subscribe. Because if there's one thing I know for sure, karma never skips a fence.